breaking news, and this is involving, of course, the continuing kind of onion peeling around the Durham investigation. We now know President Biden's national security advisor is implicated here. That foreign policy advisor is Jake Sullivan, concerning allegations that were in the Steele Dossier, some of them related to this Russian bank that was sharing information. I mean, just wild stuff that they had come up with. So he was aware of this. Well, issue is he testified in December 2017 to Congress that he had no idea.
I wanted to read this line from the testimony that he gave in 2016. He said Marc, he's referring to Marc Elias, would occasionally give us updates on the opposition research they were conducting, but I didn't know what the nature of that effort was. Inside effort, outside effort, who was funding it, who was doing it, anything like that, Sullivan stated under oath. Jordan, that is what is being reported that Durham has now found to be factually inaccurate. I don't see how the testimony that I just read before you, read to you in front of Congress, wouldn't be perjury. Jordan. I mean, it's one of the two has to be a lie.
There is no way he could be in the position he was in and not know something about those things. You know, he declared before Congress he had no knowledge about that. The other thing about Jake Sullivan that I find interesting and disconcerting is that you mentioned he's a political operative and has been for a long time. He's also an academic who has limited international real-world experience. And yet this position is so critical. I mean, this person is in charge of the defense of the nation, is privy to some of the nation's most important top secrets.
Not only is he not taking politics out of it, here's how the White House responded. They were caught off guard. Take a listen to their Deputy White House Press Secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, gets that question.
Is there any conflict here, given that there has been news around the indictment? Is there any conflict here that would preclude Sullivan from being able to carry out his duties?
As you just said, Jackie, I'm just now hearing this, so I don't have a comment for you at this moment. I don't know anything about what you're just mentioning, so I have to talk to our team.
It seems like they weren't prepared for this information to drop on Jake Sullivan, but what I want to encourage people so that they understand is that it's, we're getting higher and closer to the top people who surrounded not just President Biden, which they do, but also former Secretary of State Clinton, while she was a candidate, and President Obama. I mean, Jake Sullivan was the national security advisor to the vice president, who is now the president then. He was directly involved with the nuclear talks then. I mean, so he's been, this kind of person being this close to the criminal investigation has got to send some shockwaves through that Biden team.
I can maybe give the deputy press secretary a pass for not for being caught off guard a little bit, but Jordan, I don't buy that there's nobody at the highest levels of the Biden administration that knew about this. Again, he's been around for a very long time. He's a hugely significant player on a number of issues. He's testified in front of Congress repeatedly. I mean, the congressional testimony that you referenced from 2016 and 2017, Jordan, that's readily available to all these to administration officials. They know what Jake Sullivan has said on this.
The second question, which we don't know yet, Than, is how far Durham has gotten into it with Jake Sullivan specifically, because we talked about these ties throughout the government. He's got a wife who's a top counsel to the current Attorney General. That office, of course, DOJ, and the Attorney General has to reauthorize Durham and kind of oversees that, even though he says it's going separately. When your husband gets implicated, and there's no suggestion yet, by the way, that Durham has got him as a suspect. That hasn't been reported out yet, but we do know that he went under oath, and it appears now lied under oath.
Multiple national security officials in the last administration were railroaded on what ended up being just made up, imaginary allegations. In this case, if this is true from Jake Sullivan, I know we don't have it yet, but it is possible, Jordan, that he will be charged with an actual crime. And I just want to, I'll be interested to see if the people that cover Washington, D.C., if the media that covers Washington, D.C. Responds on the same level that they did before, when it was just allegations. If Jake Sullivan actually gets charged with a crime, what kind of coverage do you think we're going to see?
Understand how key of a role this is, to be that top advisor to the president, to oversee the National Security Council. I think all of that was kind of put under a microscope in the impeachment trial that we did, which involved a lot of National Security Council officials, the twin brothers and all that they would serve on the council that Sullivan oversees for the President of the United States.